Nintendo's 2024 was absolutely insane in all of the ways that we did not expect, and if you want to know more about that, go watch my video recapping every single bit of 2024. But today, we are going to be talking about my personal wish list for Nintendo's 2025, and I've got a lot to say about what I want to see from the Big N coming next year, especially with the Switch 2, Switch successor, Super Nintendo Switch, whatever you want to call it, whatever it will end up being called, on the horizon. I am so excited to get into this video, so make sure you like and subscribe to today's content if you enjoy. It really helps out the channel to make more content just like this, and consider joining my membership program if you're interested in early access to all my videos. So with that, let's get into the video. So my very first thing on this list has got to be, I just simply want Nintendo to release their successor to the Switch in this year, not the fiscal year, in the actual year itself. I don't care if it takes till December. That is not what I want. I would wish it to be earlier than that, but I just overall want it to be in 2025. I want to have my hands on the new console that Nintendo puts out in 2025. I want to play all these first-party games. I want to be excited about the future of Nintendo. I want to know all about their future and everything that they have in store in 2025. So that is my very first wish, is to have the Nintendo Switch 2 or the Nintendo Switch successor, or whatever you want to call it, in your hands by 2025. My second wish is a little bit more niche, and it is very important to me personally because I had a very deep connection with this game when it came out. I was so sick when it came out, and I just remember it was a horrible time, and I just wanted to play a really good game, and I was excited to pick up Luigi's Mansion 3, and I remember picking it up and playing it and absolutely binging it, because when you're sick, you get to stay home and you don't have any responsibilities. You don't have to worry about anything. So I just picked up Luigi's Mansion 3. Luckily, I'd already pre-ordered it, and I had somebody go pick it up for me because I was really sick, and I played it, and oh my goodness, dude, it's truly one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games, and I truly hope that Luigi's Mansion 4 comes out in the year 2025. That is one of my biggest wishes, and I think, and here's the thing with all of these games and predicting and wishing for 2025 and first party and Nintendo, is that because the Nintendo Switch's lifespan has been so long, it's pretty feasible to say that, oh, this game, I would want this game to be in the first year. I would want this game to be in the first year of the Switch. And they're not going to repeat what they did for the Switch's lifespan. It's not going to be, okay, once we get to the third year of the Switch, you know, we're going to get Animal Crossing. Once we get to the second year, we're going to get Luigi's Mansion 2 and a 2D Zelda. It's not going to be an exact repeat of the games that they did in order for the Switch successor. So that means that some of the games that we're going to get are going to be a little bit more close to their initial predecessor's release, and some of the games that we're going to get are going to be way down the line in the Switch's successor of that lifespan, and we're going to be like wondering, why in the world did it take this long to get this first-party game onto the Switch? For example, I truly don't believe that Smash Bros. Is going to be within the first couple years of this console. I could be wrong, and I truly hope I am wrong, but I think Nintendo is going to try to spread out their first-party lineup across the generation, and I really hope I'm wrong on that. But Smash Bros. Within the first couple years, again, is very, very unlikely. You know, they've been working on it for a while, so it makes me think like, oh yeah, it's possible, but they're not just going to repeat the exact lifespan of the Switch. So one of those anomalies that I think is possible for 2025, and just being a new first-party game that could be really cool, that wouldn't necessarily overshadow some of the other big releases, but also wouldn't be overshadowed itself, would be Luigi's Mansion 4. And Luigi's Mansion 3, I still think to this day is the best looking Switch game, so I am excited to see what Next Level Games, now officially owned by Nintendo, they bought out that studio, and they've had all this time, I believe it's been either 2 or 3 years of them having been fully bought out, and I'm sure they've been working on Luigi's Mansion 4 for much longer than that, so I am truly so excited to see what they cook up for Luigi's Mansion 4, how that game's going to look, the gameplay, the style, everything. I am hyped for that game, and I hope it comes out within the first year of the console. My next wish for 2025 is that we have a lot of good games similar to 2017, but not as many as in 2017. And I know that sounds a little crazy for me to say I wish for there not to be as many games to come out as they did in 2017. But what I think ended up being somewhat of a problem for the Nintendo Switch's second and beginning of third year was that we had a lot of cool announcements, and we did have some amazing games released within that content frame, but we didn't have a lot of those big boys coming out constantly. Like in 2017, we had Breath of the Wild, we had Splatoon 2, we had Mario Odyssey, and we had Xenoblade Chronicles. Huge, massive first-party games that everyone was able to get excited about. Not to mention Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I forgot about that. But they had a lot of massive first-party games within the first year of the console because they wanted to convince people that it was worth buying a Switch year one, day one, to get it in your hands as soon as possible, because if you don't, you are going to miss out on these games. And yes, I want the Switch 2 to have that same effect. I want people to believe that if they don't buy this console, they are missing out. And I want to feel that way myself because I want to buy it and be happy and excited that I bought it and be able to play all these amazing games. But I want them to be able to spread out some of these first-party games a little bit more than they did within the first 2.5 years of the Switch's release. I want the Switch successor every 3 months, let's say every 3 months it has a big release within the first couple years. And I know that sounds like a lot, but they did it in 2017, right? They did it to where it was like every single month they had a big first party release. So I want them to slow that down just a little bit to where those games come out in the first and second year of the Switch. Imagine if the Nintendo Switch, rather than having all of these amazing blow your face off first party games in 2017, had also spread some of that out into 2018. Imagine if the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, and then instead of the next month we got Mario Kart, let's say 3 months later, in June, July, we got Mario Kart. And then instead of Splatoon 2 in July, we got it in September, October. And then instead of Mario Odyssey in October, we got that in January, February. The list goes on, but I'm just saying I wish we had had more things spread out, because in 2018, I personally loved all of the ports that we got from the Switch onto there, but that's not going to cut it for the Switch 2. It's just not going to cut it, because we have backwards compatibility confirmed, so all of the old Switch games are going to be available on the Switch 2 day one. So they're not going to be able to fill out this release schedule with ports from a console that no one played, no one bought, like they did with the Wii U. They're going to have to really amp up these first-party releases and make sure that it's spread out well enough. So 2018 cannot happen again for Nintendo, and I truly hope that they spread it out rather than just having a bunch of great ones in 2017 and then like 10, 11 months of not a lot and then Smash Bros. At the end. I hope that they really spread it out to make it better. So 2025, I hope there are like 4, maybe 3 amazing first-party games that come out within that year of the first release year of whatever the Nintendo Switch 2 ends up being. And of course, this could change depending on when they release it, because I am sort of predicting myself that the console will be revealed and released by April, May, probably late May. And so that means they wouldn't have as much time to put out as many games as they did in 2017, because it came out in March 3rd and we knew about that console and we're hyped up with it. So it had more of a year to fill out, but this year, we'll just see. I hope it doesn't have as many games, if that makes sense. Okay, this is another game release that I really, really hope comes out this year, and I am most confident I believe will actually happen. Stay tuned for my predictions video coming soon, but I truly do believe, and I want on my wish list here, that a new 3D Mario game comes out day and date with the Switch successor. I want to not waste a single second with this new console. I want it to be a new 3D Mario game on the level of or superseding Mario Odyssey. I want a brand new game that blows my face off that's 3D Mario. It has been such a long time, and they used to really kind of rush these out in a way, because like, yes, it did take time for them to develop the 3D games, but for a while there, like we had Mario Galaxy, and then we had a couple years between Mario Galaxy and then Galaxy 2, and then we had a little bit between 2 and then 3D Land, and then we got 3D World, which was phenomenal. And then obviously we had like a 4-year wait between that and Odyssey. But now it's getting ridiculous, y'all. It will have been, I'm assuming here that it comes out in 2025, but if it does come out in 2025, it will have been 8 years since the most recent brand new 3D Mario game, and I'm not counting Bowser's Fury, even though that technically is an original 3D Mario game. Because it's packaged with 3D World and just wasn't marketed as a brand new Mario game, I'm not counting it. I'm just not. So 8 years is ridiculous. It's simply ridiculous, and I truly hope that is because they have been working on something brand spanking new, something similar to the Breath of the Wild evolution. They don't have to evolve the series like that, but I hope that the reason it's taking this long is because they're working on something freaking amazing that could only be played on the Switch 2. So in 2024, we got a lot of cool random stuff. Alarmo was a highlight of the year for me. I loved getting a Nintendo alarm clock. Music app, Nintendo Music, was another just weird, quirky, fun, out of left field, great announcement that they did that helps enhance the Nintendo user base experience. Then they had more Nintendo World announcements, Nintendo movie announcements. So for 2025, number one, I wish for the Zelda movie to get its first trailer. I hope that is a thing. I want to see what it looks like, if it's going to be bad or not. I just want to know what my expectations should be. But number two on this wish list for this section, I hope and pray that we get something similar to the craziness of 2024's announcement. I want some weird piece of hardware or weird piece of software, like a Ring Fit Adventure or a Labo, or just something weird. I want something quirky that no other company would dare to do, because they just don't do it like Nintendo do. They just don't. So I really hope we get something weird like that. Another Alarmo type thing, just something. I don't know what it could be, but I hope we get something like that. And to kind of circle around to the beginning of this wish, I really hope that we do get that Zelda movie next year. The actual, not necessarily like an actual big first look, but I really do wish that we get some sort of trailer that shows off like a minute and a half worth of movie footage and what the actors are going to look like and what the world is going to look like. Is it a live action movie in the sense of Minecraft, in which it's literally only the characters and everything else is CGI? Or is it a live action in the sense of literally everything being live action? It's set in actual set pieces. I want to know what's going on with that, and I hope it's really good. It has so much potential to be bad and not a lot of potential to be good, so I just wish to see a little bit of what it looks like so I can get my expectations in check. Okay, so this next wish is not technically in Nintendo's hands, but I hope it ends up being a launch title or just being on the Switch within this year. I really hope Hollow Knight Silksong makes its way to the Switch successor or the Nintendo Switch or both in this year. I know it has been such a long time. It's been over 5 years since they released that magazine for the game, in which we believed, it would be, the next year and blah, blah, blah. But it's not come out. It's been such a long time since this game has even been revealed, because in 2019 was when we got our first trailer for it for the Switch. And it's probably going to be a dual platform release, which I'm fine with. I don't care. I just want to play Hollow Knight Silksong on my new Nintendo Switch this coming year, 2025. I want to play Silksong. I want it to be in my hands, and I want to search through all of this massive world that they're building up right now, and that it'll be so much fun. I loved Hollow Knight so much. I played it like I've played almost no other game, no other Metroidvania in my life. I loved it to pieces. I love the lore. I love the world. I love the combat system, and I just want Silksong to come out or get some kind of update. And that's my caveat. I'll add that here. If we don't get Silksong in this year, I want Team Cherry to come out and say something, to say anything, because this is horrible marketing and PR, to just absolutely leave your fan base hanging and not say anything about potential release windows. I mean, just give us a year. Is that not a possible, feasible outcome for us to know? Because in 2019, y'all had enough footage and were confident enough to put out a trailer for it to come out on the Switch, and then for it to have a big demo for E3 that year. And that's how you know it's been a long time. For me to say E3 was the last time we saw your game, because oh my goodness, E3's dead. Like, we have not had an E3 in a long time. So I hope in 2025 we see Hollow Knight Silksong to some extent. I am tired of waiting for this game. My next wish is a little bit different, another one related to the Switch 2, as a lot of these wishes are and will be. Okay, let me start here. Tears of the Kingdom, back in 2023, was a $70 game, and a lot of people didn't like the price increase, but I truly didn't mind because the game was worth $70 to me, in my opinion. And a lot of people will say, oh, no game is worth $70, but that's just kind of where the market is going right now. And a lot of people raise prices just because they can, and I'm not a fan of that. But if the game is truly worth $70 and it has a lot of content in it, and it's just well done, it's quality and all of that, which I believe Tears of the Kingdom is, then I don't mind it. Now, here is my wish. My wish is that every first-party game Nintendo puts out is not $70 by default. I don't want a Kirby Star Allies situation to come up again in which they charged full price, $60 for a game that no one believed was worth that much money, and now imagine the same thing happening except it's $70. I don't want that to be the standard. I want them to continue, and they said in an interview that it was just going to be a case-by-case basis, and it's going to be an exception. Now, that made sense for the Switch generation, for Tears to be $70 and everything else to stay $60 for the rest of its life. But moving into the Switch 2 generation, I really hope and I wish on my wish list here that it's not all $70, that it continues to be $60 or even $50 until proven to be worth otherwise. And of course, they have the right to deem which games are 70, which games are 60. You know, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next Smash Brothers game ends up being just as big or bigger than Smash Ultimate, and then they charge $70 for that. I have no problem with that. But if they do, like I said, a Kirby Star Allies or a Mario Sports game, or just other games, ports, etc., that people don't believe are worth $70 and they just charge it anyways, I really hope that doesn't become the case, because then what would end up being the case is that $60 is the new budget price, and I would hate that, because now they give us $50 games, and that will be their version of saying, well, you know, it's still worth it, but we're not going to charge you $50. Same thing. It's like Famicom Detective Club MEO, and then they had Metroid Prime Remastered also be $50, and then Mario vs. Donkey Kong, stuff like that. And Switch Sports as well was $50. So I really hope that the new budget price doesn't end up being $60. I hope that they just continue to go from $50, $60, $70 and gauge. You know, they're not very good at gauging it now, apparently, because a lot of people just still aren't happy with their prices, but I hope that $70 isn't the standard. Something else I have on my wish list for this year is going to make a lot of people mad, and it already has in my past videos, but again, it's related to the Switch 2, and I really hope that it does not have a lot of dual platform releases within the first year. I hope that all of the first-party games that come out for the Switch 2 don't also come out on the Switch, unless it was already revealed and promised for the Switch. So, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon ZA, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Xenoblade Chronicles X, those games, I don't mind. The previously announced games, I don't care. I don't give a rip. Please put those on the Switch, because they were promised to the Switch. But games that are coming out on the Switch 2, I want to stay exclusive to the Switch 2. And a lot of people are like, why do you hate me for saying that? You know it's expensive to buy a console. I get that perspective. I truly do. But it is devastating to a company to release games on both platforms, the predecessor and the new one, for years to come. Like for PlayStation 5, I believe, has struggled because of that, because they keep releasing games that are capable on PS4 instead of just being on PS5 alone. And now we have a PS5 Pro, and we're probably still going to get some games that release and are super enhanced for that, but you can still play on the PS4. And it's just ridiculous to me that almost 5 years later now, it will have been in 2025, that the PlayStation is going to have such crazy release schedules. I really don't want people to be like, well, why would I ever buy a Switch 2? I don't need it. All these games are still coming on the Switch. I hated that talk in 2017. I hated when people were like, oh, well, it's just Breath of the Wild. That came out on the Wii U. Oh, it's Splatoon 2. We have Splatoon 1 on the Switch, or on the Wii U. So I just don't want that discourse to come out again of people being like, it's just another Switch, and no one needs to buy it because all the games are still coming on Switch 1. That would be so annoying to me, to have to advocate to people why they should buy this brand new console, because it's going to be amazing. I'm sure it will, and it's going to be graphically so much better. So I want them to focus all of their will, power, and just all of their capabilities on Switch 2 optimization, on the Switch 2. I hope that ends up being what it is. And while we're on the topic of Switch 2, My other wish list for that is that we get a similar presentation like we did in the 2017 January presentation, where they just absolutely told us everything that was coming that year. And then we had an E3 presentation in June that lit us up as well. So I really hope that we get a big presentation where they go up on this stage and they tell us all about the specs, all about the price, everything you can expect with the console itself, and then reveal a whole bunch of games for it, because that was such a fun time that we really don't ever get, and we've not gotten anything like that since. And I wonder if they only did that because they wanted to garner as much hype for it as possible, because they knew if they didn't get people hyped up for it, no one would want it, no one would buy it, because the Wii U was such a failure. So they had to really convince people why to buy a Nintendo Switch, and now they really don't have to worry about convincing people. There's going to be millions of people that buy it day one anyways, but they're going to have to really push out some games to get those people from the Switch install base to shell out again for a Switch 2, or to get people from the third-party mix into the game. Because now, hopefully with these graphics, and this leads into my next wish, I really hope that we get a lot of third-party games that are up to that quality of standard for PS5 Series X onto the Switch. I don't care what you have to do. Get Elden Ring on the console. I don't care what you have to do. Get The Witcher 4, which was just announced at the Game Awards, on the console when it comes out. Get GTA 6 on the console. Like, I want all of these third-party games to be available day and date with the Switch 2 as well. So 2025, they should release a bunch of ports for all of these games you can now play on the go. And that will be a big turning point for the industry, because now PlayStation and Xbox are going to have to get way more serious about potential handhelds for themselves. Nintendo is going to dominate this market for as long as they can, but who knows what's going to happen in the future if this comes to third-party releases and indie games as well, and then first-party Nintendo games. I mean, there's almost no argument to buy any other console at that point except for first-party exclusives, in which we know Xbox has floundered for years in that department, and Sony has been really, really bad at releasing first-party games as of late as well. So we're just going to have to see what ends up happening, but it's really going to put Nintendo in a much better position to succeed if they can kind of get into that market that Sony and Xbox have dominated, which is just AAA third-party games. So we're going to have to see if that even comes true, but I wish it does. I really hope we get to play Elden Ring on our Switches or games like that. Now, I know a lot of this video has just been about the Switch successor and Nintendo as a whole, but this is a very pivotal year for Nintendo. And my final wish of this video and for 2025 is related to that, and it's a kind of a serious one, so I'm going to take a little bit different tone with this and to say, I just really wish that Nintendo continues forward with these new philosophies that they have learned and that they have taken hopefully to heart in the Switch generation. Back in the Wii U days, back in 2013 to 2017, all of those years in which it felt like they were slapping us across the face with releases that we didn't want, tone deaf, not listening, plugging my ears, la la la. They were just doing constant stuff in which we as consumers felt betrayed by the company. They were doing all of these things in which no one cared to buy. They were marketing it horribly. It was just bad. It was a bad, dark era for Nintendo. I mean, Animal Crossing, not getting an actual game on the Wii U, and getting an Amiibo Festival spin-off was insulting. It just straight up was insulting. And so in 2025, what I want from Nintendo is for them to continue the course. That is my biggest wish for 2025, is for them to just not flounder, for them to continue forward, for them to remember this could go sour and sideways just as quick as the Wii U generation did from the Wii. It's on the table that this console flops. It just is. And I don't want that to happen. I don't even want it to be a conversation. I don't even want it to be close. I want the Switch successor to succeed in a similar manner to the Switch. Now, I don't know if it's possible for it to reach the heights of the Switch or even sell even close to as many as the Switch has sold the units of that console, but I really do hope that it succeeds in a similar manner. And I'm excited to say that I believe that that's going to happen. I believe that Nintendo is going to push forward. They're going to stay humble. They're going to remember that at any moment, if they start releasing crap again, if they start marketing these things poorly, if they give the Switch 2 some horrible gimmick that increases the price by like $100, but then doesn't increase any sort of playability or accessibility, that is going to be a big problem. And they could do that because they just love innovating, right? They love doing weird things that no one else in the industry does, and sometimes, a lot of times I would argue, it ends up being a big success, but sometimes it ends up being a Wii U, or a Virtual Boy, or all of these other failures that Nintendo has had in their history because they got a little too quirky. So I hope and pray that Nintendo truly knows what they're doing in this console generation, that they continue forward, that they don't take their audience for granted, that they remember the lessons they've learned from the Switch generation, that they push forward knowing if we don't bring our A game, we will fail. Because that attitude will take them a long way with consumers, with third-party developers, with everyone who is interested in Nintendo's IPs, with everyone who is visiting these theme parks and watching the movies and buying the accessories and weird alarm clocks and Nintendo apps. They're expanding their brand to get people to recognize them, to get people to remember who Nintendo is and who they are. So I hope that they don't have to depend on those as a crutch because they ended up failing in some way. I hope that they just stick the landing for this next console, that it's just a more powerful Switch with not a lot of, sure, they can make it different in a lot of ways. I hope that they enhance the experience, but don't create some gimmick that makes it impossible for us to enjoy the console or its games in the future. Don't get all gimmicky on us. Just give us good games and give us a great piece of hardware to play them on. So those were my wishes and hopes for 2025, and I am excited for the season to change. I am excited for a Switch 2 generation to start because that is coming up really quickly. We're going to know what this console looks like, what it's capable of, what it is before the end of March. So that is exciting to know for sure. 2025 is the year that we will no longer be wondering what Nintendo is going to do next. So if you have any opinions or disagreements or wishes, I want to know all of those down in the comments below. Tell me your 2025 wishes, what you want to see from the company, what you don't want to see from the company, all of that down in the comment section. I'm happy to start a discourse or a conversation down there. Make sure you like and subscribe to today's video. Turn on that notification bell. Consider joining a membership program, like I said earlier, to get early access to videos. And just thank you. I appreciate you so much. 2025 is going to be the best year yet for this channel, and I am excited for that future, and I am excited for y'all to be there with me. So, with that, this has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see y'all in the next video. Have a great day.